What is going on, chat? It's been a while. First day back since TwitchCon. How are you guys doing? I had a great time. There is a vlog all about it on my YouTube. That's Half Pint Television if you're interested. And I'm super happy with the YouTube and the Twitch, honestly. They've both been growing very steadily. That's been super cool. Just with all that out of the way, we're going to jump into the news now. Take a look at the January 6th committee voting to subpoena Trump and see what's going on here.
So this afternoon, I am offering this resolution that the committee direct the chairman to issue a subpoena for relevant documents and testimony under oath from Donald John Trump in connection with the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. If there's no further debate, the question is on agreeing to the resolution. Those in favor will say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Wow.
Those opposed is no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes
Wow.
have it.
Mr. Chairman, I request a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Cheney.
Aye.
Ms. Cheney, aye. Ms. Lofgren.
Aye.
Ms. Lofgren, aye. Mr. Schiff.
Aye.
Mr. Schiff, aye. Mr. Aguilar.
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar, aye. Mrs. Murphy.
Aye.
Mrs. Murphy, aye. Mr. Raskin.
Aye.
Mr. Raskin, aye. Mrs. Luria.
Aye.
Mrs. Luria, aye. Mr. Kinzinger.
Kinzinger, aye.
Mr. Kinzinger, aye.
Posture
Mr.
check.
Chairman.
Oh, what's up?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, aye.
The clerk will report the vote.
Mr. Chairman, on this vote, there are 9 ayes and 0 noes.
The resolution is agreed to. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top.
Okay. Wow. All right. So he is unanimously subpoenaed. That is crazy. Oh, what's this? Schiff shares text email suggesting Secret Service knew of possible violence on January 6th. Okay, so the Secret Service might have known about violence on January 6th, like as it was happening? I wonder, okay, so...
Hearings, you have seen direct evidence that President Trump sent a crowd of his supporters to the Capitol on January 6th, knowing they were armed and angry. This was the last, most desperate and dangerous prong of his plan to disrupt the joint session and prevent the orderly transition of power. On the morning of the 6th, the Secret Service was at the Ellipse, screening the members of the crowd as they entered the rally site. And they noticed something significant about the crowd. Tens of thousands of people were outside the rally site, but did not want to go through the magnetometers, the metal detectors that were used to screen for dangerous weapons. Since our last hearings, the Select Committee has received greater cooperation from the Secret Service. Nevertheless, Secret Service text messages from this period were erased in the days and months following the attack on the Capitol.
Oof.
Even though documents and materials related to January 6th had already been requested by the Department of Justice.
Can't they just subpoena the, I believe they can just subpoena the phone company for the, like, records of what the messages were on those phones, if I'm not mistaken. It's additional paperwork, but in a different route. I mean, obviously, well, I don't know, because that is a government contract. I'm not sure, but I believe there's a way for them to get that information still. Regardless, yeah, that's like obstruction or like, you know, tampering with evidence. Something. That's something. I'm not 100% sure what that would be, but that you're not allowed to do that. Once something has been requested, you're supposed to, you know, do your best. You and your legal team are supposed to do the best you can to turn over whatever has been requested in its current state as soon as possible. Them's the rules. Obviously, it very rarely plays out like that in higher up courts like this, with, you know, politicians and other elites, they have ways of keeping things at bay. Obviously, I mean, Trump sat on documents he shouldn't have had for 2 years in his house. They have ways of slowing things down, and they are given benefits of the doubt that a lot of us would never be given under the same circumstances in our current positions.
And Congress. But we were able to obtain nearly 1 million emails, recordings, and other electronic records from the Secret Service. Over the month of August, the Select Committee began its review of hundreds of thousands of pages and multiple hours of that material, providing substantial new evidence about what happened on January 6th and the days leading up to it. That review continues. What you're about to hear is just a sample of the new and relevant evidence that we have received. Mounting evidence before January 6th predicted violence, and not just violence generally, but violence directed at the Capitol. Intelligence about this risk was directly available to the U.S. Secret Service and others in the White House in advance of the ellipse speech, in advance of the march to the Capitol.
Wow.
The committee has shown evidence that President Trump was aware of the risk of violence.
Wow.
The FBI, U.S. Capitol Police, Metropolitan Police, and other agencies all gathered and disseminated intelligence.
And this is not surprising in that that they were just aware at all. I think anyone was aware of the possibility of violence. That was the whole reason people were so nervous leading up to, well, a little nervous leading up to that day, and very nervous on the day and the days that followed. It was very clearly a physical threat to our democracy. So what is really surprising here is the documentation of awareness, and the fact that it is possibly able to be proven beyond reasonable doubt that they were fully aware there was violence as a strong possibility, and therefore they themselves, Trump mostly, responsible for creating the situation in which violence was likely. Arguably, even possibly, depending on what is in these emails, recordings, and things, able to draw a line between that being the intention.
Suggesting the possibility of violence at the Capitol prior to the riot. We're now going to show you just a sample of the evidence we have received. Days before January 6th, the president's senior advisors at the Department of Justice and FBI, for example,
calls to occupy federal buildings, intimidating Congress, and invading the Capitol building, arm themselves and engage in political violence at the event. Okay, so I need to go back here, but if this is like what Trump was suggesting to people, then I think that's a pretty done deal. That's like straight up inciting a riot. That's like inciting a mutiny or a coup. Struggling to think of the term here. That pretty much demonstrates that he had a specific intention to physically and violently overthrow the peaceful transition of power.
Received an intelligence summary that included material indicating that certain people traveling to Washington were making plans to attack the Capitol.
Okay, so this is just from other people.
Noted online.
Okay, so this might just be the FBI's preliminary investigation and searches leading up to the event, if I were to guess. Let me double check. FBI received an intelligence, yes.
Included material indicating that certain people traveling to Washington were making plans to attack the Capitol.
Okay.
This summary noted online calls to occupy federal buildings, rhetoric about invading the Capitol building, and plans to arm themselves and to engage in political violence at the event.
And this does not bode well, because one of the biggest things that was talked about in the days that followed January 6th, seems like a really long time ago now, kind of was beginning of the year, but actually no, it was, holy shit, oh, it was over a year ago. Wow. Okay, anyway, how is this still not handled? regardless, what a lot of people were talking about is the overwhelmingly bad response by law enforcement, the lack of resources that were there to handle what they knew was going to be a massive amount of people, the lack of barricades, lack of just everything really, and that looks even worse now with intelligence being shared on the federal level that there was likely to be violence and plans to physically occupy areas. That should have sparked immediately a, I don't know, Black Lives Matter-esque response, you know, when they go to war. So it's insane. It's insane. It really speaks to a lot of the double standards, the Eurocentrism, and just the, inherent racism within our system. You look at Black Lives Matter protests, and they, or even at this point, abortion protests, pro-choice protests, and they turn violent. They look violent. And the police response is intense. There's tear gas, there's barricades, there's ballistic shields, all that. You look at January 6th, you had some cops standing around barricades. We saw like one layer of cops, okay? We saw one layer of cops at the January 6th. At the fucking capital of the country, there was one layer of cops in riot gear. We have fucking one layer of cops. I don't even know if this is cops or National Guard. And it just keeps going back. Just keeps going. Look at all those fucking cops. Look at that response. It's monumentally different. The tear gas that's actually used, you know, the force that's actually used, it's insane. This is what I fucking mean.
Other agencies were also hearing predictions suggesting possible violence at the Capitol. On a call with President Trump's White House National Security Staff in early January 2021, Deputy Secretary of Defense David Norquist had warned about the potential that the Capitol would be the target of the attack. Here's General Mark Milley, who was also present for this call, describing Deputy Secretary Norquist's warning.
So during these calls, I only remember it in hindsight because he was almost like clairvoyant. Norquist says during one of these calls, the greatest threat is a direct assault on the Capitol. I'll never forget it.
Holy shit.
This email, for example, was an alert that the Secret Service received on December 24th with the heading, "Armed and Ready, Mr. President." According to the intelligence, multiple users online were targeting members of Congress, instructing others to march into the chambers on January 6th and make sure they know who to fear.
What the fuck?
In this report, received on December 26th, the Secret Service field office relayed a tip that had been received by the FBI. According to the source of the tip, the Proud Boys plan to march armed into D.C. They think...
Proud Boys are a militia group, okay? They're fucking straight up Nazis. So that right there already should have been cause for a drastic response. That is a terrorist organization admitting that they are planning to storm the Capitol.
That they will have a large enough group to march into D.C. armed, the source reported, and will outnumber the police so they can't be stopped.
Jesus Christ.
The source went on to say their plan is to literally kill people. Please take this tip seriously and investigate further. The source also made clear that the Proud Boys had detailed their plans on multiple websites, like the Donald.win. Let's pause here. The Secret Service had advance information more than 10 days beforehand regarding the Proud Boys' planning for January 6th. We know now, of course, that the Proud Boys and others did lead the assault on our Capitol building. On December 31st, agents circulated intelligence reports that President Trump's supporters have proposed a movement to occupy Capitol Hill. In particular, they flagged spikes in violent hashtags like "We Are the Storm," 1776 Rebel, and Occupy Capitals. On January 5th, a Secret Service open source unit flagged a social media account on the Donald.win
Oh
that
my
threatened to
God.
bring a sniper rifle to a rally on January 6th. The user also posted a picture of a handgun and rifle with the caption, "Sunday Gun Day," providing Overwatch January 6th will be wild. Later, on the evening of January 5th, the Secret Service learned during an FBI briefing that right-wing groups were establishing armed QRFs, or Quick Reaction Forces, readying to deploy for January 6th.
Dude, they're cooked. Oh my God. These are like straight warplanes. Oh, fuck. I can't believe this didn't get worse. Thank God they're so fucking stupid.
Groups like the Oath Keepers were standing by at the ready should POTUS request assistance. By invoking the Insurrection Act, agents were informed. As we all know now, the Oath Keepers did play a specific role on January 6th and had stashed weapons in Virginia for further violence that evening. Also on that day, the Secret Service was readying its security precautions for the president's speech at the Ellipse the next day. A Secret Service deputy chief instructed agents to add certain objects to the list of items that would be prohibited at the rally site, including ballistic vests, tactical vests, armored or not, and ballistic helmets. By the morning of January 6th, it was clear that the Secret Service anticipated violence. It felt like the calm before the storm, one agent predicted in a Protective Intelligence Division chat group. Another remarked how agents were watching the crazies on live stream. By 9:09 that morning, the Secret Service could also see that many rally goers were assembled outside the security perimeter. One agent—
That is kind of POG though, that like they were watching it on live stream. I guess that is one way to have an idea of what's going on out there and get a closer look. But you know, can't miss Twitch for anything. Gotta give them a view. What's up?
Emailed,
throw them a sub so you don't catch an ad break.
Stuff that couldn't come through would probably be an issue with this crowd. Just a thought. By 9:30 that morning, agents reported more than 25,000 people outside the rally site. An hour later, the Secret Service reported that the crowd was on the mall watching, but not in line. The head of the President's Secret Service Protective Detail, Robert Engel, was specifically aware of the large crowds outside the magnetometers. He passed that information along to Tony Ornato, who worked for Mark Meadows in the Chief of Staff's office. The documents we obtained from the Secret Service make clear that the crowd outside the magnetometers was armed, and the agents knew it. Take a look at what they were seeing.
Okay, well, that is pretty insane. Absolutely insane. So now Trump's been subpoenaed. It's been all but, I mean, it's been verified that the FBI and Secret Service were aware that violence was likely to take place, and it sounds like even specific plans. So I just don't see any way around that for the administration.